G'day guys. I'm going to have to do a more informative video about the coils for this GPZ-7000. There's two of them here, but there's no way in hell that I can turn those detectors on in this workshop or anywhere in suburbia. They will go completely troppo. And what I'm trying to show is that you won't be able to see it. You won't be able to get a gist of it. But I can do some similar experiments on a standard type of detector. Because what we're talking about here, we're talking about those type of coils, okay, for this type of detector. But I'm using that there as a generator. All I'm doing is generating a pulse induction output and receiving a pulse induction return signal from a target as such. Now, why I'm using this is because it has a little mode on it called cancel mode, where if you're using a double D coil like that one there, it can cancel out all the noise through a 180-degree phase shift on one of the receiving coils. So the signal comes in on both, goes into the detector, and thus the coil is getting the signal on one side and the other. There's two coils in there, and they're both intercepting the signal, goes in, and what happens? When it's 180 degrees out of phase, you put it back together, equals zero, and the interference is zero. It doesn't exist anymore. Very slightly, because there's always little offsets, right? But because you're only using one side of the coil for your target, that is not offset. That is, well, basically it's not cancelled. It's only on one channel it goes in. There is no 180-degree phase shift on that, because the other side of the coil is not responding to it in cancel mode. It's not meant to respond to it. So that's how we cancel out all the big interference, and we can hear the little target in the workshop. So this is what I'm going to show. Okay. Now, what I was talking about, and other people had no idea what I was talking about because I probably didn't explain it clear enough, is on these coils. And I'm led to believe that this is the configuration of all of them. They're all made roughly the same. Now, I have to explain this in detail, and I'm going to do a show and tell. Okay. Now, I had this core here and I closed it up. Those grey things here, that and that, for all purposes, is that. That is what it is. It's not painted white. That's off the other detector. But that's what it is. It's a ferrite material, and that the cables go through it here and here. Now, because I haven't got a real coil I want to pull apart, people are going to supply me some real coils. Thank you. We are getting a X coil, which we can pull apart and examine and work out how it goes. And we're also getting a Minelab one as well, which I did have one offered to me ages ago, but it was a fully working coil, and I felt guilty in accepting it because they're worth, well, they cost so much money. Let's choose our words wisely. They cost so much money. Anyway, let's have a look here. I just want to open this up and show you the inside, because otherwise people that don't know won't know. Not everyone is an electronics informed person. There are people who go prospecting who are, sheep shearers. They don't know about electronics. There's all sorts of occupations. So I've had people say to me, why do you say it a certain way? Because 90% of the people probably don't know what the hell I'm talking about if I don't. So I know it's probably tedious and painful, but That thing there in the middle of the coil is that. If you can see that, in the middle, it's got two halves of a ferrite core, and it's held in this plastic clamp, okay? And what happens when you close this up, it's got locking tabs, and this makes it easier to put the wires in. Like, say I had some wire and I wanted to, put it in one of these for whatever reason, and it was all made in that assembly. So I can't just go and say, oh, I'll stick it through the hole. It's already made. But what you can do, if it's already made, you put that in there and you go like so, and it clamps on. That's what they've done, okay? So that's just a clamp core. Doesn't have to be, but imagine if you're doing all this winding and wiring, and you're going to go in and out. Rather just clamp it, okay? Same thing. Now, the reason these are here, and this is what I have been told, and I have been told by people who know this stuff inside out. One of the guys made mention in the comments, he used to work for White's Electronics. They made metal detectors. He was an engineer there. His name is Carl Morland. He has the Geotech detector website, geotech1.com. And there is stacks of information there. It's probably the best technical repository for anything to do with metal detectors. So if you want to learn about this stuff, they've got coil specific part of the forum, and you can learn all about different coils. I recommend it very highly. So anyway, this is one of the coils that's in a GPZ. It's not in any other detector. GPZ-7000 whatever, 7000. That's what's in it. A receive winding made of Litz wire, another receive winding made of Litz wire, and a transmit wire. So this goes down, and the signal from the target spreads out as it goes back up, of course, and intercepts here and here. And depending, if you have it here, it's a bigger signal. If you have it right in the middle, it actually nulls because it's between. I'm not going to go into that. It's too complicated. But anyway, if you're right in the middle, these detectors on shallow targets go like, I can't really sound like a metal detector, but as you swing over the target with a normal single coil type metal detector, it will just go like woo, right? And that is the signal. This does woo, woo. And you've got to get your head around the fact that where you swing over a target, the actual center in the middle of the coil is where there's no sound. Well, minimal. It's a null is here. And you'll get the target there and there. But on a target in the ground, and you went on that's the loudest, you don't know if it's here or here. So you'll end up digging in the wrong spot. You've got to pick up the woo as it goes, like the target goes woo, nothing, woo, right? In the middle, that's where you dig. I know it sounds weird, it's just the way these things work, or that thing works. So the GPZ-7000 works in a way that gives you the actual targets in the null. Okay, you'll get the gist of it. If you got a 7000, you already know this. If you don't, well, you're being told. Okay, over here, I'm just going to move the tripod, so hopefully it doesn't wobble around too much. I've got two areas on that coil. One is on the receive coil. The other part is where it should be a dead zone on the transmit side. It should be a dead zone. Okay. So this is where the cable comes in. This is the whole point of the exercise. The cable comes in here, and I've marked it as such. Now it probably wants to fall off, but hopefully it stays there. I've got some materials here. I'm going to show you how various materials interact with a pulse induction coil. Now you've got to remember, the GPZ is a derivative or is a pulse induction detector. I'm going to say this I've got to be very specific in saying this, in my opinion, because I said something about it years ago, and someone sent me legal letters over it. But anyway, which I thought was very, very heavy-handed and quite ridiculous, and they ended up going in the bin anyway. So don't send me legal letters, because you're allowed to have an opinion, please. Okay. What am I looking for? Okay, I've got that. I was going to stick that there. And I've got this set up on this GPZ, GPXX 4500. I've been doing too much with the Zs. I've got Z on my brain. Okay, I'll turn this thing on. I put a microphone near the speaker. I hope it's loud enough. It should be. Now, the only reason I can do this here is because of the cancel mode in the detector, doing that phase inversion or 180 degree phase shift and cancelling out all the noise. But, you know, it won't cancel out a metal target. Okay, I've got it sitting in normal mode at the moment. Normal mode means normal timings, which were the first things that ever came out with these detectors. Oh, within reason, you know, basically three small pulses, one big. That's the way the ground balance works in the system. Or they can be also, sorry, in the first instance, it was 4 small pulses and 1 big. But anyway, so they're all derivatives, fiddle around. As long as the mathematics works out, it ground balances. So let's have a look at this thing. Okay, what have I got it in? Okay, I've got it in fixed timing. And the reason being is, say we have a ferrite core of this nature. This is a yellow, white. Okay, you want to think about, well actually, how about I start with the start? Pretend that's in your coil, in your GPZ coil. That coil I showed is an X coil brand. So I haven't opened up a Minelab or anyone else's one, so I suspect that these are in all the coils to get rid of the solder joints, which this is trying to electrically hide from interfering with the ground and generating a back signal into the whole system, making things unbalanced and making noise. So let's have a look at this. Can or does this get rid of metallic items like a solder joint in a coil? But I can't put it in this coil here. I can only show you from the outside. It's good enough, right? So if we get this, we can hear it. Have you noticed where the cable is, where the wire joins are? It's more noisy. I mean, it's more reactive, should I say? Not makes a bigger sound. There you go, more noisy, but it's more reactive. So it's very, very reactive around where those solder joints are in this coil. So you're thinking to yourself, that's interesting. Why is that? Well, if it's very reactive there, would it be more reactive to an actual metal target? That's what we're getting there. Now let's go over here. It's not. Works completely the opposite. It picks up with more reactivity to the ferrite than what there is to a metallic target. Doesn't this tell you something? Isn't this strange? The only difference is the windings are basically equal, and you can go 80. Well, as I went over there, it was just less of a signal. And I'll make sure I've got this in fixed. If I have it in tracking, it'll start tracking things out and making really skewed results, and that's what happened to me before. Okay, now for instance, say we have one of these, still more reactive over there, right above where all those solder connections are. It's very reactive. What about a hot rock? Like I say, it's in fixed ground balance. It's not ground balanced to the hot rock, but I'll show you. I'll ground balance this to the hot rock, and I'll show you what the problem, or what's indicative of the problem, the problem. Could we call it a problem? We'll call it an issue. We'll call it an artifact. We'll call it an event, in my opinion. I'm going to put this into tracking. So I've got that right next to the coil. So hang on, flick it back and forth. I'll flick it again. Okay, now what I'm going to do very quickly, I'm putting it back into fixed tracking. I don't want anything to move, because even just sitting there, it'll drift. So, okay, what about where the wires are? I don't think that fixed tracking is working very well. I think it might be a little bit funny with the switch. Like I say, I haven't checked it fully. Hang on, try it again in tracking. Fixed. So should stay there. No, I'll go back into tracking a minute. Here we go. Back in the tracking. Back and forth. Fixed. Okay. That is really strange. This is not holding its fixed tracking position, which is going to make life really hard. So I'm going to have to do, unless someone spun the switch. No, you can't. Not in this. I've had it before where people have turned the switches around on, not on these ones with the mylar strips on the front, but on the older detectors, on the GPs. They've spun the switches around. Tracking's fixed and fixed is tracking, which confuses the hell out of me. But that tells me that something is not quite right in that front mylar strip. It may have a dry joint. This detector looks like it's brand new. This was bought, I got told the history of this. This 4500 was purchased brand new. It was used once. It went back to the dealer, and the dealer sold it to someone else. Maybe it has an issue, and that could possibly be it. I don't know. I haven't gone through the whole thing, but we soon will go through the whole thing. But isn't it interesting that, because I go over here, but why is this changing the ground balance set point? Why is that? There's something funny going on. It's to do with the solder connections. It does the same thing on these coils as what it does on the GPZ coils, in my opinion. Okay, so can you now remake or pull apart all these coils, all these old, SD, GP, GPX, all the coils, and put on sleeving on the coil joints? Can you do it? Is it worthwhile? I don't know. Like one of the guys said in a comment, he said it's like you're doing an online sketchbook, and that's exactly what it is. This is for other people to go and research. I can't go and do complete materials research and pull coils apart. I've said this before. This is for others to do and come up with ways of improving metal detectors. That's all it's for. So that's interesting. Let's see about this switch. I'm going to flick it. Hang on, I'm going to spray some. I don't want to put this near the coil. There we go. I'm going to spray some isopropyl alcohol into the switch just in case there's something weird going on in it. So now put that there, and I'll flick this a million times up and down. Now let's go try something. Okay, I'm in tracking. Let's track. Now I'll put it into fixed. No, I think it had dicky connections in the switch because it's behaving now. Okay, we had a dicky switch all that time. I better fix that properly anyway before it goes back to the customer because it'll probably fail. Okay, so a quick fix is isopropyl alcohol. You should all carry a can of isopropyl alcohol with you when you go detecting. If your switch is stuff up, that does fix it. So it's more reactive over those windings, a hot rock. So it's giving a signal. It's not giving it. Things are drifting around a little bit. It might be that switch isn't a real good hard connection. So what it is, if the switch is open circuited, let me try and remember this exactly. How I haven't looked at it for so damn long. I think closed is tracking, open circuit, it should stay in fixed. I think that's the way it works. But anyway, apart from that, I'm going to put it back into tracking anyway. So let's see if we can track out all these materials, okay, and their reactants. That's a ferrite core, straight out of a normal metal detector, possibly the same as what's in that X coil. Don't know. Don't quote me on it. I don't know. I haven't got an X coil to examine at the moment. No way known that'll balance out. Okay, so you know it's going to cause reactance in the windings. What about over here? Oh, funny about that, isn't it? More reactive over the windings. Okay. Now let's go to these cores. Now I can track these out, right? These are the iron powder ones. That's the reduced iron carbonyl core. A little residual there, but not much. Hang on a sec. I'll just flick it again. It's only going off as I'm tapping the coil. It could be moving the coil. I don't know. No. Okay. But a couple of millimeters off the coil doesn't really do anything. What about over here? Tell me the coil windings need shielding. They do, even on these coils. The joins, not the actual thing. Now, I think in the other video I was trying to show something in it, and I was trying to say that can we hide a metal screw? Can we hide that from the detector coil? What I've done, I've got a whole heap of these T26 cores, okay, and I've stuck them together with masking tape. You can do this with the cores. You can just add them together. 1 + 1, equals 2, 3, and it gives basically the same effect. You don't need the continuous piece of material. So look, that's that. Watch this. Screw goes in. Now I tried to do this with the other cores on the other video. It didn't work. So it's in there. But if you notice one thing, now it's picking it up here. It just needs to be ground balanced. But look at this. Oh, hang on. It's probably wiggling around. Yeah, it went to the end and it gets close to the end. If it's right in the middle, it's hard to judge because I can't see. It wants to go right off there, but if I put this into tracking properly, say it's your ground or whatever, it's tricking me again. I had it, it was actually cancelling it beautifully. Let's try it over here. It's totally non-reactive over here. Let's get rid of the metal there. But what I'm going to say is that, see how non-reactive that is. How I'll put a small bit of soldery stuff in it. This proves a point perfectly. I think it's still asking too much to get rid of a screw, but it can, believe me. Right, hang on a sec. It does get rid of a lot of that solder sitting in there. I was flicking it back and forth into tracking, and it's not very reactive, but if we've ground balanced it, there you go. It doesn't hear that. I can put the metal in it, put the big blob of solder in there. It should, nothing, see? That's what I'm saying. These should be in. Now, even if we're using these, I'll just flick it back into fixed to tracking, just to speed up the tracking. Remember, these go into a fast track mode as soon as you hit the switch. So what we'll do, we'll see if we can track this out on the back part. Can't get rid of it. I'll put some blob of solder in there. It does help disguise the solder as such, but it's still reactive. Can I just use a single core, put the solder in the core? That's a fairly big blob of solder. You wouldn't want that, see that in your coil. That would be definitely a Monday-itis coil. So anyway, I'll just flick it again. Should be able to get rid of everything here. Well, even that with the solder in it is. It's just reactive as hell where the wires come into these coils. But what I'm thinking, because I'm moving this near there, right? But it actually is gone. It does actually hide the metallics really well. Like, it's not there. I really do think, in my opinion, something small like that, they're very small cores, they're not very big, but you can get this, you can actually get this as an assembly, probably around about the same size, or this is made by Micrometals in the US, by the way, in Anaheim, California, and if you ordered enough, they'll make custom ones. So you could get very, very small little tubes, and you can put your solder joint in it. Freaking not even there, really. Not really there. And these, you know, I'm not going to bang the coil because it sounds crazy, but you know, that is far less reactive than that. So I'm just showing you why these wires in the coils should be magnetically or electromagnetically, if we could say that, ferromagnetically, I don't know, should be shielded anyway. And these little ones, I don't know if I've got one sitting around by itself, but these little things, I'll unwrap them. Whoops. That's what they are. There you go. They're stuck together. They're the Micrometals T26 material, or whatever diameter they are. So if you just got one of those and you made just say, I'm just, they're all going to go everywhere, but anyway, just say you had one that small, but it was made into a tube and it was the same mass. I mean, I'll show you these things. If I just reset everything here, ground balance, into fixed, into tracking. You know, and if I had a small ferrite one, the smallest ferrite ones I've got are these. They're the smallest, but these are reactive as hell, normally. So it's far more reactive over that metallisation where the wires join. Where the windings cross over in the middle of the coil, you're going to get a lot more reactance as well. I just don't know if I have a very, very small one. But like I say, this is, that's another one, another type, and that's bigger and thicker. Just over those windings again, right? It's still reactive. So as far as I look, this is the gist of it. This is my opinion. This is my personal opinion. The cores the ferrite is put in there to circumvent eddy currents around the core, or any currents around the core and not on the blob of solder sitting on the wire inside the core. But I'm starting to think the core is causing another issue, right? This is my opinion. So people need to experiment. You can get these little cores. You buy them on eBay, T26, and they'll be all shapes and sizes. You can buy them in bulk. You can get these on AliExpress as well. They actually have the same ones there, which is probably cheaper. But if you want, there's plenty of people over in the US selling these things, bags of hundreds and whatever, and you can just stitch them together, just put them together, and they do the same job. And you know, if you have a coil in a million bits, maybe you unclamp. If the coils have that clamp arrangement, you unclamp those sitting in that, and I don't know if you can get that in a clamp arrangement or that in a clamp arrangement. I don't know. It would have to be very finely cut, very, very polished in how the other ones are. But you know, these have a initial permeability of about 75, by the way. And if you cut a slot in it and put an air gap in there, the permeability would fall to probably about 0, or maybe 1 or 2. It won't be effective. So that would need to be made. I'm just thinking, because you can get core winding machines, a toroid winding machine that can wind a winding through that round and round and round and round. That's how they wind them anyway. So you could get your coils wound like that if you put it on supports and had a iron powder carbonyl type core, maybe about that long or something, with the solder dags in the middle. It just, I'm just, throwing it out there that you could experiment with all this. And, the only thing about all this is, like I was saying, if you can, whoops, no, I'm not going to go pick that up now. I can go and roll over there. But if you did put a screw in one of these, even that one, and it's right in the middle, would that actually go off on a metal detector, a security metal detector? Well, there goes that screw on the floor. Gee, I'm butterfingers today. I'm dropping everything. You possibly could put metal items in ferrite or a powdered iron material and get it past a metal detector. I don't know. Could you? That's very high permeability, 9500, these things. They're a special thing for high speed switch mode power supplies. But I get another screw here. I put a screw in there, just in, and see if it actually can disguise it. Well, it did. It actually did. So, ferrite's interesting, isn't it? It hides the magnetic fields of metal, or circumvents it. Well, not of the metal, but stops the initial field getting or passing around on through metal. So it actually can disguise things. That's probably not a good idea to put on the internet, actually, but anyway. Yeah, but I think they use VLFs, they don't use pulse induction, and a VLF should be able to pick it up, but I've never done the experiment. I don't know, but that's that. So look, I hope that explains something a bit better, even though I had a dodgy tracking fix switch on this detector, which I'm going to have to fix. Yeah, it just goes to show that, this is what I classify as the dark arts. It is a dark art. Should be on a Harry Potter film, shouldn't it? Yes, because you think, oh, that's a good way of doing it. There's always a better way of doing it, or a different way of doing it, or whatever. So yeah, I'll still left that thing going. Shut up. Yeah, let's go turn this microphone here off. I think it turned off. Good. Hope it didn't turn this one off. I hope they don't talk to each other. No, it's still going. Good, good, good. So anyway, that's the experiments. That's a muck around. It's just, like the guy said, an online YouTube sketchbook, which it is. It's sketching things out, trying it, experimenting, and the same principles apply to anything that's a pulse induction detector of any derivative. So please experiment, and I hope I didn't sound like I was talking to, putting everyone in baby mode or something, but I was trying to keep it straightforward and do a lot of, this is why and how and the basis of it and all the rest of it. Maybe you need to watch the video a couple of times and go through it, or look at the key points and just make of it what you make of it. But I do think there is improvement for these detectors of all sorts. And if the coil manufacturers who are still making coils for standard pulse induction detectors, we do have other manufacturers who are going to be making standard normal type pulse induction detectors with standard normal unchipped coils. There is a market probably for doing one of the manufacturers to do aftermarket coils for it or coils for it, and incorporate something like this powdered iron type core material around where they soldered the wires on from the cable to the windings. And try it. Just before you put one together, try it and then put it together and just see how it compares to the others. Try it on a big batch of hot ground. Throw some hot rocks in there. See if you get a reduced response from the hot rocks. That's the whole point of it. Anyway, but I'm not geared up. I can do it, but I won't get any work done. I've got detectors to do for people. I've got all sorts of things. I've still got a couple sitting over there. I've been banging for them. I've got these 7000s down there done. One of them anyway. One of them's done. One of them's not yet because we're doing comparisons. I need a reference because I don't own a 7000. So but they are basically, I've got the whole thing set out to go and do the install on all the extra bits and pieces to make them behave a little bit better. Like I say, it's a dark art. No one knows until you try it. Then you go, oh, the other thing too, like even down here, I had a request on one of the ones I'm doing at the moment. If you can see down here, because of the other video, that's all been painted in the good old HSF 54, just to any surface currents on the alloy will be burnt up or partially burnt up on or in this black carbonous paint, which has quite a low resistance, and it actually does shut the detectors up a bit. It stops any type of stray signal recoupling anywhere, and it just burns it up. It does actually work. I've done it with and without. I can tell the difference just in the the noise floor and just a burble from the detector. I can turn the threshold down a lot further, and it's just quite interesting because normally if you have the threshold down too far, you'll get the little pop 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 noises, and I can turn it down far enough and less than what it was, and I don't get any. So obviously that is a good technique to reduce the noise floor of your detectors as well. You could also put on some magnetic shielding if you wanted to. I'm not going to go into all that. There's a lot of stuff you can do still, and some of the manufacturers out there do not do it. Some may do it, but I don't know of it, and I do it, and it improves the performance. I'm just saying. So, like I say, it's a sketchbook. Not really. I've proved that, but this stuff here is absolutely a sketchbook. It is a work in progress, so you can play around with all this. And what I should have done, look, realistically, to do a hot rock response, you need everything locked down in your detector. You don't want to change the frequency. You don't want to change any settings whatsoever. You really need to open it up. You need to slip on a ferrite core and slip on similar sized or something like that in the powdered iron category. Stick it over the windings and see if the hot rock response drops. I've got mono coils here in bits, but I can't do a simulation because of the noise. I would have to rip apart and actually destroy a double D coil to do a proper test. And I'm not geared up for it right now. So anyone out there who's got a bit of a smacked in, buggered up double D coil, and you've got a GPX or even a GP, you can do these tests. So try it, see what happens. Experiment. That's what the name of the game is. Experiment. See if you can improve things. Anyway, we know damn well that the solder joint area on these coils, and let's go for a mono as well, is very reactive to anything that is a bit out of the normal than a normal ground, and it'll throw the ground balance off. So maybe it makes the detector quieter, and works better. It's done in these X coils and whatever coils for a reason. They wouldn't do it for fun. So the same thing as far as I would say, and also, in my humble opinion, would improve the existing detectors and may make them all nice and quiet. I don't know. Try it. Try it. Leave it there. I think I've waffled on enough. I've got to go do a school run and pick up in 5 minutes, so I better prepare. Catch us later. And if you've got, hey, by the way, any comments, leave the comments. I like the comments. Make comments, make suggestions. Tell me I'm talking out my ear, whatever. And I don't care if you do say that, actually. As long as someone did say something like, I won't repeat it because I can't. I'll get demonetized. Not that it makes much difference anyway, because you only make a few bucks out of it anyway, which I use for donations, by the way. And he got kicked off the channel because you get some real fruitcakes out there. In every 10,000 people, there's a nutter, at least. Anyway, you all know that, don't you? You all know people who are nutters. That's that. That's enough waffle. I better go and get ready. Catch us.